Hey friends, what's up? This is Metro and welcome back, Sevem. It's been a while. A lot of people are really not fond of this character right now, but I think Sevem is still insanely strong. Arguably one of the best, if not the best characters in the game on ladder right now. And a lot of people nowadays are running him more like an old bot. But yeah, I recently got back into building him. I think I found a way to make him work as the hard carry character he used to be. And in my opinion, this is still the best playstyle if you want to hard carry the game. We'll get into it. This is my first Sevem build update in a long time, so I'll explain like the outliers that a lot of people don't seem to understand on what to run. And otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward build. We're running a Surge of Power build, or a Power Surge build, I should say, not a Surge of Power build, right? Before, in the old version of the items, you used to run Surge of Power on Power Surge on the 3 to make it stronger. But we don't really need that item anymore for multiple reasons, but I'll get into that. Let's get into early game real quick. Sevem in lane is somewhat weak, right? He has pretty low regen, he's very easy to be hit. You know, massive head hitbox. So you really want to build him for survivability, and you want to really avoid trading with the enemy while there's creeps active. So the strategy you want to use is you buy monster rounds and then you go compress cooldown on your 3. And you basically put 2 levels in your 3 and you just nuke the wave. And then after, you can either go for boxes or you can start trading, dealing tower damage, right? But that's the entire playstyle in the lane. Otherwise, I do get 1 point in a static charge to get a faster stun cooldown, maxing out Power Surge, and then we end up, after 1 point in ball, I end up maxing ult, okay? So it's still a hybrid build. It's still a build that makes Power Surge really strong, but also makes the ult really strong, especially when you have it on max, right? So don't think of this build like Power Surge only. Extended magazine, just to have a bit more ammo. We're not really using Quicksell Reload or a reload tool on Sevem, so we really want to guarantee that we can empty a full magazine clip and kill someone, and we don't have to reload in between. That's why we're going for Titanic later on as well. And then we go for Cultist. I kind of changed my mind about this item in the last few weeks. I think in the last build update I said that I think Cultist is really weak and really unusable. But I've come back around to realizing it's actually still a great item. And the thing with it is, it scales with boons now, and boons are basically level ups that you receive when you get a certain amount of gold, right? So once you get to enough boons, you get the old statistics or the old stat bonuses of Cultist Sacrifice, if not more, right? And one stat Sevem actually really does benefit from is ability range. Right, ability range is good on everything. It makes your ball bigger, it makes your stun radius bigger, it makes your power surge radius bigger, and it makes your ult radius bigger, right? So this 50% ability range is just really good. And in my opinion, the most underrated stat you could build on Sevem, other than raw spirit, which is still number 1 on Sevem, is fire rate. Because fire rate allows you to apply power surge faster. So if you're building a left click build, right? If you're building a build that deals damage with power surge, your damage on power surge is directly correlated to how fast you shoot, right? Because it procs every single time. It procs every single time you shoot 1 burst, is how power surge works, right? So every time you shoot 1 of those, it's gonna proc power surge. What means is, once you get the fire rate from Cultist Sacrifice, you know, you're gonna deal more damage. And in addition to that, Cultist Sacrifice gives us bonus health, and bonus health is probably the most, health in general is like the most valuable stat right now in the game. More so than ever before. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is early game, you don't really win by... before the item rework patch, right, we had a lot of barriers. We had Divine Barrier for 1,200, whatever the price was, I forgot, 1,600, right? We had a lot of items in the early game that would make surviving really easy, like Enchanter's Barrier, Combat Barrier, right? And those items don't exist anymore, so having raw HP in the early game and mid game is really valuable. Because the more HP you have, the more valuable resistances become later, right? So if you are low HP early, some people still do rush, like Battle Vest or Enchanters, which you can definitely do. It's really good, right? They're really strong items, both of them. But they become more and more effective the more HP you have. You can decide to go Cultist later. This is a very greedy version of where you are weak when you buy this at the start, right? We are 7, we're playing very passive and we're playing very greedy. We buy this, ideally we have this at 8 minutes, and around at 8 minutes, the tier 3 camp spawn, and you can sacrifice a tier 3 creep. So you want to line up the cultist sacrifice with the tier 3 spawn, okay? And again, we keep this throughout the entire game. It's not an item that gets weaker over time, it's an item that gets stronger over time now. In fact, I would call cultist like a mid to late game item that you buy. The earlier you buy it, the more money you accumulate, right? But you are weak because you buy it, right? So you can very easily, if you wanted to, you can very easily move this back, okay? And run something else instead. That's just how I like to play it. And then we go superior cooldown. This is now a no-brainer. We're already running compressed cooldown on our 3. So we spent 1,600 to upgrade this, which basically makes our cultist uptime 100%, right? And then, obviously, you know, having low cooldown on ult, power surge, like every single ability on 7 is really benefiting from cooldown reduction. So this is a no-brainer. This is an insane item. Also gives us our first spirit investment, which gives us passively 15% spirit, right? Well, technically, once we buy compressed cooldown, we get 9 spirit, and then we get another 6 just for having this item, even though this item itself doesn't give us any spirit. Also, it does give us 4 out of combat region, which means in like early mid game when we farm and we want to sustain and not necessarily go back to base, this is really valuable. You could also run something like Fortitude here. Fortitude is insane, probably gonna get nerfed soon, depending on when you're watching this. But yeah, and then we're going rapid rounds, and this might seem really random. But it's not. There is a purpose to this, okay? So it is not even because we can upgrade it to like burst fire later. I've talked about the investment stats and the valuable thresholds you wanna hit, right? When you invest. And basically the gist of it is, this is like one of the last orange items we'll ever buy in the game, right? The only other orange items we'll buy is Titanic Magazine and Fleetfoot, right? And now if you look at our investment stat in orange, we are above 4.8k, so we get 29% weapon damage. But I know at this point I will most likely not buy another orange item again, unless I need something like escalating resilience, right? Or I want something like even more burst, whereby burst fire. We know we won't buy any other orange item. So having this item in here, what is gonna allow us is, it's another quality of life upgrade. Again, I do value fire rate on 7 really highly. It makes it smoother to aim as well. It makes it more consistent, and it increases the damage by a lot if you go for power surge builds. But notice how just by buying this one item, just by investing another 800, which is really like a small amount of money, right? We get 10% fire rate, but more importantly, we'll hit this next threshold where we get another 11% weapon damage for free, right? So just think of this item as you investing 800 and getting 10% fire rate and 11% weapon damage, right? If that's what Rapid Round would say, right? If the stats on Rapid Rounds would say 10% fire rate and 11% weapon damage, it would be the most broken item in the game, and every character in the game would buy it, right? Obviously, that's not the case always, right? But because in this build, it's the last orange item we buy, we can think of it as getting an amazing threshold, right? But yeah, we buy this in lane before Titanic. There's also nothing wrong with buying it after Titanic and Fleetfoot. I just buy it here because it gives me the threshold to 29. And then we go for Enchanter's Emblem. You know, Spirit is good on 7 and more cooldown reduction again. And this is just an insane item for you know, the amount of value you get for 1,600 is insane, because you also get 18% spirit resist. But yeah, we buy Enchanters, Titanic, and Fleetfoot. We want to be fast on 7. We want to kite on 7. We want to, you know, go in and out, shoot non-stop, and kite. That's one of the strengths of 7. Like just being able to stay outside of the effective range of the enemy while being able to deal massive damage yourself. And then we go for a pretty early Spirit lifesteal. The reason I like going this early is usually in the mid game there ends up being fights where you kind of want to be present on 7, and without any sort of lifesteal, you will die very easily, whereas if you have Spirit lifesteal and you hit a fat ult, right, it's very hard for them to kill you. So this item just guarantees that we stay alive in those mid-game fights. You can also buy this later if you don't want to. And then we're buying the most broken item in the game right now, other than Rescue Beam, in my opinion. Suppressor is absolutely insane. It reduces the fire rate of the enemies affected by your spirit by 35%, which if you fight on 7, that's everyone, right? In ult, that's everyone, and even a power surge, it will hit multiple people. So everyone is reducing, like everyone has reduced fire rate by such an insane amount, right? And gun characters are obviously really strong right now, right? So this is useful against almost everyone. And even if you think, oh, why, this doesn't really do much against Spirit Burst characters like Lash or Pocket, right? Even against those characters, I notice it in fights. They still shoot their gun, right? And I've had multiple fights where I live 1v1 against a Pocket because they try to burst me and then they try to finish me off with their shotgun, but the shotgun goes like bang, bang, like really slow, right? This item is crazy. It will get nerfs. It randomly gives 6 extra spirit power and 75 bonus health, and has like one of the best effects for a 1600 item in the game. So we're buying Suppress cooldown, and notice how until now, and this is a pretty big investment, 15,000, we didn't need a single flex slot, right? At this point you should have a flex slot. Worst case scenario, you can end up selling rapid rounds later, but you know, at this point usually you have at least one flex slot or the game is over, right? So then we buy Improved Spirit and Enduring. And if you don't have 2 flex slots by now, you can already go for the late game upgrades, which don't need a flex slot, right? But both those items are really essential. Improved Spirit is just gonna make everything you do more effective, right? It adds more damage to everything you do. And by, what's the word I'm looking for? Because you add more damage, you also get more lifesteal, is what I'm saying, right? And Enduring Speed, you might think it's overkill together with Fleetfoot, but like, it just makes your movement unstoppable, basically, right? It feels like an unstoppable for movement to where even if the enemy has like a lot of movement slow on you, you pop Fleetfoot and you have Enduring Speed and you still run at Mach 5, so you can kite really, really well. Yeah, so this item is insane, and then we go for, this is the power spike. Once you get to Infuser, this is where you kill everyone in the lobby, okay? Before that, you want to play kind of passively, you want to be a farmer on 7, you can split push, and you can obviously join team fights because at this point you should have your ult on max, you're really strong, right? But until Infuser, you play kind of passive, and this is your big power spike. And the way you want to use Infuser is, there's multiple ways to use it. Either you pop it right before you use Power Surge, okay? What this is going to do is, it will extend the duration of Power Surge. A lot of people don't realize this, but the duration extension is affected by Spirit. So if you pop it before, it will extend the duration. If you pop it during, it will not extend the duration, but it will obviously extend the damage, right? So you can pop it before Power Surge and just use Power Surge aggressively to deal a lot of damage. The downside of that is, usually you are the one initiating the fight here on 7, right? Or you get caught out. The downside is you're gonna be full HP, so you're kind of wasting the lifesteal effect of Infuser, right? Which is 80%. So what I like to do more often than not is, I engage without Infuser, and I use my stuff, right? I use my ball, my stun, my Power Surge, and then if I get any low, right? Then I pop Infuser, and suddenly I regen back to an insane amount of HP. And if you looked at the clip of the start of this video, you know what I mean, right? Like, especially if there's multiple people around, you can gain back your health like insanely fast with this, right? So you pop your Power Surge, and then when you're low, you pop Infuser, and you do a few bursts, and you're gonna be back to full HP. Obviously, same thing you can do with your ultimate, right? So if you're low, you can very easily, if you have Infuser off cooldown, right? You pop Infuser and ultimate, and you're instantly back to full HP, right? You're instantly back to full HP. And this is like an insane amount of healing, by the way. There's like an insane amount of healing. So I would consider Infuser like an item that does increase your damage massively, but also does allow you to sustain massively. It's really a bit different from old Infuser. Old Infuser on 7, the 800 one, right? Or the, you know, the 500 one. Back then we had 500 items. You just would use every time before Power Surge, right? But this one is really valuable in terms of lifesteal, and it is the core item for 7. And then after we have options, you don't necessarily have to go from left to right here. I would almost always buy Infuser first here, but then we have multiple options. If the enemy has a lot of CC and you end up feeling like you're getting stunned a lot, stunned out of your ult, Unstoppable is the first choice, right? If you feel like you need more damage, more movement speed, you know, more everything, at this point you can buy Boundless, right? Which is going to give you quite a lot of more spirit. And then another really good item that is being slept on and especially good for 7 is Juggernaut. Because this reduces the fire rate of enemies when they shoot you. And they already have reduced fire rate because of your suppressor, right? So imagine you have a fight and the enemy has like a Wraith and a Haze, right? And even if the Wraith and the Haze have more money than you, imagine you go in and you ult, right? And they try to kill you. They won't be able to. Because if they shoot you with Juggernaut, their fire rate is gonna be insanely slow. Most of the time, the way you die in 7 ult is they take cover and slowly shoot you with their gun, right? That's like sometimes there's spirit burst happening, but like a lot of the time they try to shoot you with their gun and they just can't anymore. And Juggernaut, the good part about it is, since we're already running Enduring, we don't even need an extra slot. So this is an amazing choice. And then obviously we can also run something like Lightning Scroll, right? And at that point we can obviously sell Rapid Rounds, right? At that point we don't really worry about the gun damage anymore. We can buy Lightning Scroll and then absolute luxury if you need even more damage, escalating exposure. And that's really it. It really feels like old 7, kind of. Where you do the stuff you used to do. And not much really changed. But there are a few things I want to talk about, and I'm sure those questions are going to come up. Why do I not use Surge of Power anymore? It got changed quite a lot, right? Basically, the cooldown is really low now on the Surge of Power, but the improved spirit that you get on your imbued ability is not that high. 25 is not that high. It used to be way higher. Ideally, you want to put this on an ability you spam all the time, because you always want to have that fire rate and movement speed up, right? And you only really use Power Surge once a fight, maybe twice, right? Because it will stay active for 20 seconds. You will not really spam Power Surge, so it's not worth putting Surge of Power on Power Surge anymore, in my opinion. You can put it on boards if you still like it, but in practice, I just felt like getting straight to Infuser or getting something like Boundless Spirit, right? Getting other spirit items like Silence Wave just felt stronger to me. It gave me more overall spirit power. So that's the reason I don't run Power Surge anymore. But I can guarantee you, I kept the name the same. I call it Metro Shock 7 because the build plays the exact same. It feels just as fast, it feels just as strong. Maybe you're a tiny bit more squishy in the early game, but if you played my old Shock 7 build that had Power Surge, you're gonna feel right at home with this build. Because I do, and I do like the Power Surge 7 playstyle, where I just run around, right? Okay, let's get into a few situational items real quick, right? Mystic Slow you can buy at any time, it's gonna upgrade into Lightning Scroll anyways, so if you feel like you have troubles catching up, or troubles getting away from the enemy, you know, slow is really good, but you know, in reality you have a lot of movement speed, so I only buy this sometimes. Silence Wave is insane against certain characters, like if you can Silence Wave or Pocket and burst them, right? And this not only silences everyone, it's an insane item, it also gives negative spirit resist, right? It spirit shreds the enemy, which means all the stuff you do does even more damage. So this is an insane item, and an item I actually run a lot right now is Escalating Resilience. And historically you would think this is not really a good item for 7, but because we're running fire rate, right? Because we have fire rate from both Rapid Rounds and especially Cultist later, right? And at this point, when I have Cultist active, it gives me 35% extra fire rate, right? So because I run these fire rate items, it's actually in reality very easy to build up the bullet armor. So if you look, you know, the way it works is I get 2 bullet armor per bullet, and 1 burst has 3 bullets. So in reality, this is how fast it goes. Like, it's very fast to build it up. It's gonna be active basically at the start of the fight at this point, and this is like the most bang for your buck item that gives you more bullet resist, right? It's kind of hard to get around bullet resist right now. So I buy Escalating a lot. Because the meta is a lot of bullet resist, and if I feel like I'm still too slow and I feel like I need more damage, this is like a desperation kind of buy. So I upgrade rapid rounds into burst fire, which, you know, gives me more fire rate and gives me more movement speed to catch up to the enemy. There's like a glass cannon kind of thing in case I really can't afford the late game power spikes. But usually I always go Infuser first. And then debuff remover, self-explanatory, still an amazing item. And an item I seem to like more and more is Spirit Resilience. Meta right now, depending on what you're watching, is still a lot of gun damage or a lot of Spirit Burst. And on 7, you can actually make use of the below 35% health because you have Infuser, right? So you can let yourself drop below that value and then lifesteal it back with Infuser. A lot of other characters can't do that, but 7 has that freedom, kinda. So you can make use of Spirit Resilience. I buy it sometimes. Same for Spellbreaker. Super luxury, but does give us a lot of resist on both and saves us against a lot of Spirit Burst. And then Spirit Burn is actually an item I buy quite a bit. You can run Healbane in this build. You can fit it in. But you get to late game, the build does require a lot of slots. Right, I'm not gonna lie to you. But later down the line, if there's a lot of healing on the enemy team, if the enemy has something like the Infernus, Spirit Burn is like the best anti-heal in the game still. But I will add Healbane in here too, because I do buy that item sometimes. It's situational. And then I have Power Surge in here as a little throwback. In case you don't understand how good this item is in this build. It gives me more spirit power than Surge of Power, right? Every time I use it, plus the lifesteal, obviously. And the cooldown is actually insanely low because we have superior cooldown, right? So basically there's like a 13-14 second downtime, right? So it's always up. Like it feels like it's always up. It's up when you need it. It's up when you need the lifesteal. It's up when you need the burst damage, right? Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I know I haven't been super in depth with this one. I would really encourage you to just try it out. I think it's an insane build. And yeah, otherwise, next video gonna come out very soon. We'll talk about the items. We'll talk about the next major patch coming up. Wink, wink. Stick around if you want to. Until next time, see you friends. Bye bye.